Welcome to week number 2 in your Simply Aroma ongoing consultant training program. Last week, we talked about your party opening, and hopefully you now have an intentional opening for your party that gets your guests involved and puts you in charge, scripted out and ready to go. This week, we're going to be talking about what happens once you've completed your introduction, as you acknowledge your host and begin to interact with your guests. Let's begin by looking at acknowledging your host and a great way to get your guests involved in that process as well. Now, I wanted to make sure that my host felt like the most important person in the world to me, especially during their party. Remember, they are truly the catalyst for success in your business, and your host is going to make or break your party experience for you. I wanted to make sure that I showered acknowledgement on my host at the beginning of my party. I want to go through the 3 steps I went through to do that. Step number 1, acknowledge your host with a gift. This doesn't need to be anything fancy or expensive, just a simple token of your appreciation, gift wrapped or placed in a beautiful gift bag. I generally kept the value of this gift below about $5, mostly because I wanted to make sure that I was staying duplicatable. If you're giving each host an expensive gift, they might in turn think that they can't afford to do what you do. Step number 2, share a greeting card and invite each guest to write in it. I told them we were going to pass the card around the room and that I wanted them to write a personal note in that card for the host. I started it off by showing them what I'd written. Step number 3, ask them to share one word that best describes the host and add that word to their note in the greeting card. Again, I would tell them that the word I'd written was gracious or whatever it was, and then I would tell them that we were going to go around the room, and I wanted them to tell me their first name, how they knew the host, and their one word. This is a great way to get them interacting from the very beginning of the party and to learn their names. It's also a really great experience for the host as she feels acknowledged by the entire room full of her friends and family. Once you've acknowledged the host and you've had all the guests do the same thing, it's totally natural to take a moment and share your story. This is a story that tells your guests a little bit about you and how you got started in your business. And it can really become a huge asset for you as a booking and recruiting tool. I want to spend a little time here and I want to talk you through creating this story and teach you how you use it during your parties. There are 3 components to a powerful personal story. First, it's a little bit personal, so we get to know you. Second, it plants seeds. It's relatable. And it stops just short of an invitation to do anything. I'd like to share my story with you. It's unique to my experience, so obviously yours will be different. But I do want you to hear an example of how it might sound to weave all these things together. Now that I know a little bit more about you, I'd like to share my story with you and tell you how I came to be standing here in front of you tonight. It's kind of an interesting story, actually. My very first party with my company was at my sister's house. Now, I really didn't want to attend, but my mom sort of laid a guilt trip on me, so I pretty much had no choice. I showed up late, I sat in the back so that I could get out early. But a funny thing happened. As the evening progressed, I found myself really interested in what the consultant was actually sharing, and I really loved the products. By the time the party ended, I had a pretty long list of items that I wanted, and I couldn't believe how excited I was. My sister got a ton of free products, so when the consultant asked me if I wanted to host my own party, I kind of surprised myself by saying yes. My party was a huge success, and I got pretty much everything on my wish list for free that night. Plus, my friends had a ball. At the end of the evening, I asked the consultant, just out of curiosity, how much she'd made that night. And when she shared that with me, that it was over $100, I was pretty shocked. She asked if I could ever see myself enjoying doing something like this. Now, I'm married and I have 2 little boys, and we were really struggling to make ends meet at the time, but I didn't want to put my kids in daycare. This just sort of seemed like the perfect solution, so I told her I'd give it a try. Let me tell you, I was so nervous during my first party that I thought I was going to have to excuse myself, head to the ladies' room, and throw up. I honestly don't remember what I said or did, but at the end of the evening, I got 3 bookings and I ended up making $127 in my pocket that night. I was hooked and I've never looked back. Now, I want you to notice what's missing from that story. I didn't give them any invitation to do anything. You're going to be offering them a chance to book a party or learn more about your opportunity later on in the evening, and we're going to talk about that in a future video. Here's why I want you to wait to tell them all about the wonderful things that have happened in your life since you started your business. See, most direct sellers start out by trying to book and recruit in the very first 5 minutes of their party, and your audience is expecting that. Remember, we talked about how most of the people who attend a party have had a bad experience in the past, and they're savvy about that, right? They're already on the lookout for what they think you're going to push on them and will respond by putting up a wall. And then you have to spend the rest of the evening breaking down that wall so they'll even hear what you have to share, no matter how good it is, regarding your party. Okay, so let's look at your call to actions for this video. First, prepare at least 3 hostess gifts with greeting cards before your next party. Second, download the worksheet Creating Your Simply Aroma Story from the Simply Aroma website and complete that worksheet. That wraps up the learning for this week. Be sure you download the worksheet for the homework and make the time to get it complete before next week's training. Next week, you're going to be learning more specific tools about how to use the guest care card and the wish list during your parties. I'll look forward to seeing you then.